Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamp.
Joining me now, we're going to turn to a new initiative we've got here on Countrywide Connect. We have a partnership with the Institute of Rural Professionals, very bright minds, as you can imagine, that are dealing with all sorts of technical information and breaking and distilling that down and distributing it to our farmers to keep up with what is you need to know to grow. And part of that partnership, if you are a Countrywide Club member, which means that you're a subscriber to both our magazines and our premium content online, you will get access to more and more premium articles behind our paywall. And the first extension of that is they hold regular webinars. So if you're really interested in these particular premium interviews that we do here on the show, we're just going to give you a little teaser so that you can go and watch or listen to the wider topic at your interest. I will put a link in the description of this if you're listening back on podcast or YouTube to go and watch that. But of course, you need to be a Countrywide Club member, and you can find all the details at country-wide.co.nz. Recently, as part of the webinar, Louise Cook, the program manager for the environment at Fonterra's On-Farm Excellence team, was talking about phase 2 of an emissions and profitability project, and she joins me now. Louise, thank you very much. You've been in this space for quite some time, trying to unpack a balance between emissions and profitability. For those who aren't familiar with your work, would you be able to give us a little bit of background on the project itself?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So the project has been a really awesome collaboration, industry collaboration, probably the first and biggest of its kind, where we took some information that Fonterra has for farms, which is the largely the physical data, the milk production, etc. We also look at the emissions data that we're calculating for our farmers and how that's being used in our footprinting of our milk, as well as for farmers understanding their emissions footprint. And we connected that to the dairy-based information that Dairy NZ hold, as well as to some serious animal horsepower information coming through for Livestock Improvement LIC. All of that went into a big black box. It got connected, and we ended up with this anonymous data set. So the farmers connected to all its info, but nobody knew who was who. And from that, we had a question with Fonterra, obviously 2 years ago now, just about 2 years ago, putting out a target to reduce emissions intensity. We've got national climate aims around absolute emissions, and we've got farmer profitability sitting out there. And it was important to understand if there was any positive or, goodness, negative relationships between any of those. And so that's kind of where the project grew from. So big anonymous data set, and we said, let's have a look at it. And if you improve emissions intensity, which was kind of our core focus, what else do we observe? What do we learn around profitability? So that was the aim, and that's what we did a year ago. And then this year we've been doing some even more cool stuff on top of that, which has been really fun.
So in phase 2, when you provided an update to the Institute of Rural Professional members, and of course our Countrywide Club members can get access to that full webinar, what did you touch on where the potential could lie for measuring more and more data?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So what we, in the phase 2, or the second version 2 of it, there's been some changes to the emissions model this year, some in accounting methodology, which feels a bit boring, and some, and we've now got better and better data from our farmers that we're able to feed into that. So we just want to keep escalating how well footprints reflect on-farm practices. So we reran the data, and what we saw was the relationships got stronger. We went from there's actually not a relationship between emissions and profitability to there is a relationship, and it's definitely not negative. So if you can improve your emissions intensity, it should 100% be favourable for profit. Can't tell you how favourable it will be, but we know that it's definitely not a negative. And so in doing that, we've highlighted some key things which hit this like quadruple bottom line. So we wanted to see emissions intensity be lower, so footprint is lower per kilo of product. We want to see absolute emissions get controlled or lessen, because we don't want those going up. We care about water quality outcomes and what's happening there, as well as most importantly, what's happening to farmer profit. And we found there's like a little magical key that can unlock all of those. So you can hit the quadruple jackpot just by focusing on one or two key things on farm. And I think that's incredibly empowering for us to know with certainty that that thing we believed was good is actually better than good.
When it comes to the modelling, you were obviously doing it on some pretty good payouts and like talking us through that quadruple bottom line. Where does it shift if that payout drops, and how to continue to weigh up what is effectively a long-term investment as well on farm?
Yeah, it's a really interesting. The study, Mark Neal from Dairy NZ talks about that, the fact that this is done over a period of reasonably, in the grand scheme of payouts for the last 20 years, it is done through a period of significantly high payouts. The interesting thing is, because we're chasing or measuring profit, we are picking up on that. Whilst payouts gone up, we know that the inflation of costs is chased right underneath that. So margin's been squeezed. So I think, I guess what we've seen come out of it is, it's not the people that produced the most milk that made the most money. It was the people that were most efficient with their resources who really drove utilisation of homegrown feed, that drove profitability. And I'd like to think that particularly those farms, if we do see any kind of payout clawback, it's not clawback, sorry, bad phrase. If we see any payout lowering that comes through, which payouts are, look, we know it runs in cycles. I fully expect our most efficient farmers to still be protecting that margin. So the core thing to all of this was, if farmers can drive on-farm efficiency, which feels like a bit of a boring phrase, but the leprechaun at the end of this rainbow has got a big old pot of gold for people. If you can drive real efficiency, if we can drive margin, you protect your profit margin, whatever payout does. And for me, that's the most enduring and critical thing here, because it's predicated on really getting the best out of kind of homegrown feed and the what is still the majority of feed on almost every single one of our farms across the country. So,
for Fonterra farmers who are familiar with their farm insight reports, and if they're not, they need a kick up the bottom, because it's a fantastic piece of information to be utilising on a day-to-day basis. For those who are familiar with their farm insight reports, what could they potentially sneak in of as metrics to focus on more and more?
This is probably the most exciting thing that came out of V2. So we checked all the relationships were still there, and we went, yep, solid, let's move on. One of the things we looked at was, it's really easy to say homegrown feed, and the more you do with it, the better your profit's going to be, and emissions intensity is better, and like everything was rosier. But one of the challenges we had is that not all farms are equal, and the amount of grass they can actually grow is fundamentally affected by soil type. In Taranaki, the constant conversation around altitude, those that are up the Maunga, they're not very far from farms that have got significantly different, what we call pasture potential. So one of the most interesting things is the work has evolved and said, we can actually map for all of the Fonterra farms what the pasture potential is by looking at soil type, altitude, rainfall, drainage, if they've got irrigation or not, adjust for nitrogen, and segment the region based on people whose combination of factors means they've got the ability to grow similar amounts of grass to you. And I think that's going to be a real game changer for people to be able to potentially benchmark themselves against people who've got the same constraints or opportunities, and to really see how they measure up and find out what that next opportunity is and go after it with gusto. So it was great to be able to present some of that information to the Institute of Rural Professionals, because we know that lot are the trusted advisors that our farmers will go to when they want to play the what's next game. So some amazingly cool stuff starting to come through, which I'm really excited that we'll be able to share with our farmers soon.
And I noticed that you presented that alongside the head of data science, Mark Neal at Dairy NZ. It's a wider industry project, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And so there's certainly been some spin-offs, and will continue to be, to say, how do we empower industry with this knowledge, empower agriculture and dairy in New Zealand to progress forward and to maintain our competitive advantage in the global marketplace, but to also do what's right here at home and have better and better outcomes supporting New Zealand farming families and supporting the New Zealand economy. So yeah, really, really neat to work with Mark Neal, who presented with us on the webinar itself, but there's probably a couple of other people that are hidden behind the scenes who've done a fantastic job. So a few colleagues at LIC, so Simon Perry, Malcolm Ellis, who used to be with me here at Fonterra, and then Paul Edwards, and Josiah is the wizard who's done this magical work with the data, who's just some brilliant brains working on stuff and really looking for opportunities for farmers across the New Zealand dairy sector.
So if you are a dairy farmer wanting to stay across what's next and what's coming so that you are prepared, Louise, could you just give us a real quick summary on why you should look out and watch the full webinar, listen to the full webinar on Countrywide?
Because if you want to understand what's next for profitability, we need all of our farmers to truly believe that there is still opportunity for growth and efficiency gain in their business. And I think when you see some of the data and the spread that's sitting there, and particularly when we put up some of the images around the pasture potential stuff, you really get a handle on the fact that the more we are able to dial in and allow people to compare, I think we use the phrase on the webinar, find someone with the same coloured dot as me. It really helps you unlock that that mental model that goes, I haven't perfected farming yet. There's still opportunity in front of me, and it becomes a case of how am I going to go and get it, go and grab it, take it back, put the money in your pocket, guys.
Great advice. Thank you, Louise. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. Louise Cook, the Program Manager for the Environment at Fonterra's On-Farm Excellence team, as part of that project. As we've been saying, you can go and watch and consume that premium content at Countrywide's website if you are a Countrywide Club member. So the link's in the description below. It'll take you there. And of course, if you are genuinely looking for stones to pick up to continue to improve your business and the direction of where things are traveling, this is what you can definitely expect to get from Countrywide and your club membership.
Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perry-Lamb.